Metal Wolf Chaos is a game you might have seen before. The premise is pretty simple. You play the President of the United States fighting your traitorous Vice President and his military coup d'etat forces across America in your state-of-the-art battle mech suit. It's a fantastically weird, funny aberration in video game history made by From Software, the developer now most famous for that Dark Souls series I keep hearing about. So how exactly did this thing come to be? Well, to answer that, we'll have to take a look back at the ancient history of the early 2000s. It was 2002, and Microsoft had just launched the original Xbox the previous year. The American console had found a lot of success in Western markets, but they were struggling to break into that juicy Japanese gaming market. Now that would be an uphill battle too, because it was home territory for Nintendo and Sony, the biggest gaming titans on Earth. From Software had just come off the release of Armored Core 3, and Microsoft thought what they needed to become popular in Japan was a nice Xbox exclusive mecha action game of their own. And so in 2004, Microsoft reached a deal with From Software, who would develop the first Japanese Xbox exclusive for worldwide release. That last part wouldn't happen, but we'll get to that. Now, From Software didn't just want to create another Armored Core. They wanted this to be a new series entirely. Interestingly, the Armored Core team was not made to develop this new title, but it was given to the team responsible for the Otogi series instead. Though Armored Core team did provide them with feedback on creating engaging mecha-based gameplay. And just a quick note while we're on the topic, how the hell has there not been a single Armored Core port to PC yet? You're telling me it's 2021 and the only way I can play an Armored Core game is through an emulator? This is a tragedy, nay, a crime. Anyways, when it came to conceptualizing the game, that's when things got a little weird. Since the game was being made for an American company, they drew inspiration from American media in a comical kind of way, poking fun at the most ridiculous aspects of our culture. Game producer Masanori Takeuchi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I am so sorry, did an interview with Destructoid in 2019 in which he recalled the creation process. It is America as perceived by the Japanese. It's completely fictional, but at the same time it was our idea of this ideology of American culture and comic book heroes, and we pieced that together and it became the president piloting the mech. We think that when Japanese look at it this way, from the American point of view, it's almost like how they imagine a Japanese ninja, and sort of the same ideologies, the same kind of fantasy. So it goes two ways. With that idea in mind, they landed on our goofy, lovable 47th President of the United States, Michael Wilson.
You've got a conference and dinner party at the Japanese embassy regarding wildlife protection.
Oh yeah. Sorry, but I'll have to cancel that. I'm heading out to save America.
He's actually, canonically, a descendant of Woodrow Wilson. If you can believe that the same family would get elected into the White House multiple times, that would be crazy! As for the antagonist, Vice President Richard Hawk, they drew inspiration from some other sources. Quoting Takeuchi from the Destructoid article again, originally, we had this dynamic between President Michael Wilson and Vice President Richard Hawk, and we wanted it to be this comic book hero dynamic of good versus evil. In terms of our initial image for Richard Hawk, we looked at the WWF, the heroes and antagonists there. The bad guys even have their own sense of justice and personality, and they think that they're right, and they're very bombastic, and we wanted to base the character on that sort of idea. And yeah, if you played this game, the WWF influence totally shows.
But the cream will rise to the top, oh yeah. I am the cream!
The game was developed by a team of only about 30 people in about 11 months. So it was a pretty short production schedule. The original release did not go quite as planned, however, as Microsoft got cold feet about the final product. Objectives included stopping terrorist attacks by insurrectionist forces in major US cities. And let's just say that was kind of a touchy subject at the time in the US. So the game was only released in Japan, as an Xbox exclusive. You know, the system that wasn't selling well in Japan. So the product was initially a commercial flop, but it amassed a cult following over the years due to the game's, let's say, unique sense of humor and premise. It wouldn't be until Devolver Digital expressed interest in a remaster of the game that it would gain widespread awareness in America and eventually get a remastered, localized release in Metal Wolf Chaos XD. So let's talk about this game. So for a game that came out originally in 2004, the remaster makes it look pretty good. The surfaces of your mech suit are textured and shiny. It's still very apparent that it was built in 2004 though. Everything that isn't a mech suit looks pretty generic. The levels have a nice bit of variety though. I could easily see a game like this set everything in generic city streets, but that's only a few of the levels here. You can go to the Grand Canyon, Alcatraz, some beach, a gaudy casino level, and even the moon. The moon is pretty much just a big elevator though, so don't get too excited. Enemy design is mostly just the US military. You fight Abrams battle tanks and Apache helicopters. They even throw in some robots and cyborgs too. The roster gets surprisingly varied. However, making the protagonist mow down hundreds of US soldiers might have been an element in Microsoft trying to distance themselves from the project. It seems kind of silly now though, as the game is obviously a big, ridiculous farce.
Bravo, Michael! What lovely footwork!
The thing I most want to talk about with the presentation though, is this thing. What the hell is this thing? Well, it took me a while, but I pieced it together eventually. No one ever tells you how this works, so I'll help you out. Okay, so these green boxes, that's your health. You lose health whenever your shields break. That's this green bar down below them. It took me a while to figure out because enemies didn't seem to damage me at all, unless there's a lot of them or you get one shot by a boss, but I don't want to talk about the combat just yet. So the orange bar on the left is your boosters, which last for a comically short amount of time considering you need to use them to get anywhere at any speed less than a light jog. If you burn your boosters for too long, it starts eating into your shields. Finally, this blue circle gauge. I had no idea what this was until I was messing around and clicked both sticks. It's a burst attack. Nobody told me I could do this. It's actually pretty good too, you can basically one-shot entire rooms with it. Now, when it comes to sound design, I think this is where the madness begins to show. It's hard to explain, but everything kind of just generally sounds like you're hearing it through a thin wall. Most of the sound effects have this weird, echoey compression to them. I think this is probably just a sign of the age of this game. The enemy voice lines are all bizarre, also.
Metal Wolf, I don't know what you're up to, or who is inside of there.
If you fail to comply, the Alcatraz cannon will zap you backwards.
Will it now?
There's even a dialogue clip that plays when you pause and unpause too, but I have no idea what it's saying. I didn't even notice it until almost the end of the game. Here you can see me mute the game and do it over and over again because I can't tell what it's saying.
Sample this. Sequencer. Sample this. Sequencer.
Do you know? Comment down below if you think you know what the voices are trying to tell me. Thankfully, this incomprehensible gibberish doesn't carry over to our main cast, and thank God for that.
You just don't get it, do you? Freedom is dead!
Mr. President, I haven't been this happy since that supermarket going out of business sale when I was searching for my favorite candy and I found the last box all covered in dust at the back of the rack. And the expiration date was still good.
I know the feeling, Jody.
Oh, and Michael, I forgot to tell you, but your presidential staff, those backstabbing idiots, Well, I've decided they can die too.
The voice acting here is truly on another level of drugs. When I was a little kid, my brother and I would play with action figures and make them fight. We would make up stories on the fly that were always like little kid brain gibberish. And I think that's the best way to describe the dialogue in Metal Wolf Chaos. It's just little kids slamming action figures into each other, yelling stuff like, "Believe in your own justice." It's easy to look at all the patriotic prose being tossed around while characters say absolutely nothing of substance, and think, yeah, this is a solid critique of American politics. But I think the game is much more childish than it is biting. I feel like they let someone's kid write the script for this, and I don't say that in a bad way. I think it's honestly the best thing they could have done. Whenever Richard shows up, I know I'm in for a great time, because I get to watch something like this happen.
Yeah! Suck on my missile punch!
And then I get to laugh my ass off. Seriously, you cannot have a bad time when Richard shows up.
Richard!
Michael!
Unless you have to fight him. Richard is unironically the perfect villain for this kind of game too. I wouldn't want Richard to have some lofty goals or give some 30-minute long dramatic speech. He's just kind of a big dumb evil idiot, and he fucking loves it. The music here is also kind of insane. There are some pretty cool tracks here, but I think something got lost in translation, because anytime a track has vocals of any kind, they are all nonsense. This track, called Ultimate Weapon, is a great example.
Radical rebel with a need to bomber. Radical rebel with a need to bomber.
Radical rabble with a need to bomba?
Radical rebel with a need to bomber. Radical rebel with a need to bomber.
A lot of tracks are some kind of rock or metal, but there's a surprising amount of, jazz fusion. Yeah, I'm really not, I'm at a loss for words here. I'm not sure what to say about this soundtrack. It's crazy. So when I was reading some other old reviews for this game, they mentioned that the combat was very fun, but I want to tell you that that is only kind of true. When you get through a bulk of the game and unlock some nice, effective weapons, things do get pretty kinetic and combat starts to flow pretty well. Until you get hit with a cutscene, but we'll get to that in a minute. The problem is, when you start the game, you have exclusively terrible weapons. This sounds obvious, but you're always having to hit different armor types, and the game never tells you what kind of ammo works best on what. You have to hit regular soldier enemies, buildings and vehicles, and robots and cyborgs. There's kind of a rock, paper, scissors counter system going on here with the ammo and armor types, but the game never tells you what anything is weak to. Even the guides aren't sure. I read you weren't supposed to use energy weapons on the final boss, but I did and they seem to work the best, even if he did have a big energy field. So the solution is getting the highest tier machine guns because they don't care what you're shooting at. It'll die. That means the early game can be kind of a slog as you stand at the base of a building you need to destroy and empty your grenade launcher into it because you think it might be more effective than the pistol. It'll be even more frustrating too when you do all of that and then fall into water, or off a cliff. That means you'll die immediately and need to start the whole level over again. That's right, kids. No checkpoints. Mission length isn't an issue here, because most of the missions can be done in under 10 minutes. But bosses can easily one-shot you, and a lot of other things that regularly kill you are frustrating. These include the aforementioned cliffs and shallow pools of water, but also surprise poison rooms or hidden traps like those terrible landmines. It's enough to make you go insane. The level will also reset if you wander too far out of bounds, and I don't mean it'll give you a countdown timer, I mean you will fail as soon as you cross a red line on the map. I prefer an invisible wall to this. This is just psychotic. A lot of games used to have instant death wonkiness like this, but This is definitely on the bad end of the spectrum. The game does make a turn once you unlock better weapons, though. There's an upgrade system where you invest research money into different types of weapons, and then you can manufacture them using money and rare metals you find during missions. It's a pretty compact progression system, but I really enjoyed it. It doesn't take any time at all to get it down, and the weapon variety is actually wonderful. There are so many flavors of gun to put down this insurrection. Not all of them are created equal, though. Trust me on this and max out machine guns first. You can thank me later. But this is where another problem starts to rear its head. On replay, you want to run missions as quickly as possible to build combo meter. But there's an obstacle here, and that's that every single level has cutscenes. And I am not kidding when I say they will play about every 30 seconds when you try to run these levels fast. It breaks your combo, and sometimes you'll be getting shot at when they end. The worst one is with the last boss. As soon as you leave his cutscene, he hits you with a missile attack that can half your health right at the beginning of the fight. This feels like the devs sucker punching me. There are a lot of challenges after you beat the game to unlock ridiculous gimmick weapons, and you can even get aliens to appear for you to destroy their UFOs and capture them. But I really don't have time to 100% this game. I'm already way too behind on this script. All in all, I think the combat can be really fun in Metal Wolf, but it has too many little problems and things that break the flow for me to really recommend it based on that. I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to say about the story here. I guess there technically is one. You start off on the White House lawn, the insurrection already afoot. You escape in Air Force One and fight your way back across the country to eventually fight the Vice President in space. Richard really loves being a villain, too. He's very efficient at it. In the few short days he's president, he is launching gas attacks on major cities, turning a prison into a superweapon, and putting a nuclear silo on the moon. Say what you want about Richard Hawke, but the man knows what he's about. It's as over the top as you would expect, and culminates in one of the greatest ending cutscenes of all time.
I'm going in!
Impossible! Not even you can possibly stop a shooting star!
Jody, who am I? I'm the president. I always make the impossible possible, and I'm gonna keep on doing so.
Michael?
Richard, it was your methods that were flawed. Our love for America won't change. Richard!
This is one eternal flame with your justice!
Mr. President? Come on, Mr. President!
No problem. I'm coming home, Jody. Tomorrow's gonna be another busy day at the White House.
You aren't playing this for the story here, you're playing for the memes. When I write reviews, I like to think, why would someone play this game? Every game has an audience, and different people have different ways of enjoying video games. I personally hate survival games, but I get the appeal of them. For Metal Wolf Chaos, it's a special case. I feel like most of the joy comes from watching this madness unfold before your eyes. There's just something about it that's surreal. It feels like something that came straight out of a 12-year-old's brain. Its childlike whimsy is an absolute delight. I think this game deserves a 6 out of 10. I think it's much more fun to talk about than it is to actually play. I don't think I can recommend it at full price, but if you don't mind some old school jankiness, pick it up on sale. It's good for a few laughs at the very least, and the endgame can be legitimately a blast with all the high tier weapons unlocked. If you like old school arcade mecha action, you'll feel right at home here. Metal Wolf Chaos is a weird part of gaming history. Anyways, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you did, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, do it. Just do those things. Do them. Anyways, next week we'll be talking about Phasmophobia. See ya!
Radical rebel with the need to bomber. Radical rebel with the need to bomber. Radical rebel.